the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Big shorts and TikToks and everything else coming up this fall that are literally in the chamber right now. So check out all of that. But yeah, love to hear from you guys. Chase Thomas Podcast at gmail.com or tweet at us, Jeff, Bryan, and myself, and we'd be happy to talk about that on this very show. Bryan, The Atlantic, that's what we're doing this week. You had a song, and the reason I'm starting with this particular team is that you said that you were going to talk about the Montreal Canadiens in song form, which speaks to Jeff Middleton, who will be the judge here as someone who comes from a musically gifted background. So I didn't know that we would have this level of judge on this very program, but now we have someone with some sort of genetic musical taste here that I very much do not have. So Bryan, the floor is yours.
Oh, I was going to say, we're going to be talking about, of course, our French-Canadian neighbors to the north, the Montreal Canadiens. And I told them jokingly, didn't think that this bit was going to continue on into the show, that I would just do it in the voice of the chef from The Little Mermaid, Le Poisson. Yeah. So, and I can do one line, because if I keep going, I will start doing the voice, and I don't need to do that on here. But let's talk about Montreal.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going in reverse order through the division. So we'll talk about the last place team. I think they finished 26th in the NHL. They were 31, 45, and 6, 68 points. It was a team that they knew that they were going to be rebuilding. It's kind of weird, though, just to think about how quick the turnaround was from a Stanley Cup final appearance to nearly the bottom of the league. But I think they're a team that has embraced the fact that they're rebuilding, which is something that is respectable, that, because again, some teams refuse to admit that that's what time it is. And you see what happens when that happens. So, they're in a little bit of a turnaround here now. Got a couple of guys, not a huge offseason, signed Alex Newhook, which I think I like that signing, pretty good for what this team is now. And, guys like Jeff Petrie came in the trade for Mike Hoffman and Rem Pitlick that sent them to Pittsburgh. They got Jeff Petrie, Casey DeSmith, and Nathan Lagar, and a second round pick, which is, I as somebody who loves Rem Pitlick, Nashville's second leading Rem Pitlick lover behind Ann, that seems like a pretty good return there. I think that was more just a little bit of a salary dump or something for Pittsburgh, but they haven't done much, and so it's kind of a static team. We're pretty familiar with where they're at and what we're looking at. But the good news is they've got some really good young players, and I think obviously we can't talk about the Canadiens without starting by talking about Cole Caulfield, Short King. He's on pace to be a 40-goal scorer. And, we talk a lot before Forsberg and Duchesne had their years that, Nashville had never had a 40-goal scorer in their entire history, 25 years. And actually the Montreal Canadiens, all the good teams even, they haven't had a 40-goal scorer since 1993.
Wow.
So Cole Caulfield looks like, I didn't believe it.
Who was it in 93?
Oh, gosh, you're killing me now. Vincent Damphouse. There you go. Only because I had it pulled up. But I mean, he's played 83 games in his NHL career, and he scored 48 goals, which is pretty ridiculous, over half a goal a game. I mean, just really, really impressive for a kid that I think there was a lot of hype behind him, and good hype behind him. But I think just the way he was taken in the draft and just the circumstances, I think a lot of people got that, this kid's overrated, or my favorite, he's too short to play hockey. And he's out there doing it. I mean, I think this is a guy that's going to be a centerpiece for that franchise. And they've got, Alex Newhook, again, like I said, he'll be a good guy to kind of assist in that part of the offense. Kirby Dach, who is phenomenal. I love him. I love his game, and Nick Suzuki. So, I mean, there is a lot of young players on there that they can build a core around. I think that this year that they've kind of realized they didn't make a ton of big moves or anything. So I think they expect to continue to rebuild. I mean, they've got, centers. They've got their Sean Monahan, Jake Evans, Christian Dvorak. Like, they're not all going to be there by the end of the season. And I think the prevailing thought is, Sean Monahan's basically trying to see what he can do, play real well, so that way he can impress other teams, because he kind of looks like one of those guys that's just going to be an inevitable trade deadline move for Montreal. So, they are a team that is Martin St. Louis, behind the bench, which is weird because, like, like I said, the first NHL game he was on the team I was watching. You got Joel Armia, who's didn't have a great year. He's getting $3.4 million a season. So there's a lot of players that either have things to prove or young guys who are trying to prove that they belong and that they belong in the upper echelon of this team. But, there's not a ton. They've got a ton of great prospects, but I don't think too many of them are going to see significant time. Goaltending, who knows? There's Montembeault, there's Smith, and there's Jake Allen. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, just given what they've had to deal with goaltender, that they just, I don't think they've got so many forwards and defenders that they just have to play, that they can't carry 3 goaltenders to start the year. And then of course, and I'm gonna butcher his name. Is it Slavkovsky? First round pick. His rookie season wasn't great. 39 games, 4 goals, 10 points. I still think that he's going to be good. Like there was nothing that I saw it just screamed more like young guy who's getting used to it than a player who's way above his head. I think, guys like him is one of those where he's probably been so good for so long that competition, he hasn't been around competition like this, in a long time. And so I think he's going to be a better player. It just may take a little bit of time, but I think what Montreal, the Canadiens have is plenty of time. So they're going to be in the bottom half of the Atlantic, if not the bottom 1 or like the bottom 2. I just don't see them being a very good team that's going to contend for anything. But that's okay, because, sometimes you have to go through these years to get the better ones. And so I think they just stay on course and don't do anything too outrageous with, at the deadline, and they kind of stock up a little bit. I think they'll be on their way, because they've got a really good young core. So,
Jeff, thumbs up or thumbs down is your final answer on the Canadiens offseason, based on what Bryan just said.
I mean, I wish there was a thumb in the middle, because I can't. I mean,
it's like the gladiator gif where it's like,
it's hard because like Bryan said, like I don't think there's going to be a ton of improvement, but I also don't think that's what they want. I mean, if I'd probably go thumbs up, just because Alex Newhook is a good player. I thought that the trade with Pittsburgh was fine. And they're still young. They have guys that can be useful. I'd probably give them a thumbs up. I mean, it wasn't like crazy good, but it was fine. It was solid.
Yeah, it's another one of those teams too, where like some of the players that have left may make the team a little bit better. Guys like, I don't know, Denis Goryanov. That he won't be playing for the Canadiens anymore, so they might get a little better in that
first
position.
Liner, Denis Goryanov. Second liner.
I'm sorry. It's just
that's my favorite meme. That's my favorite.
It's just it's so much fun to poke you and just knowing that you're gonna go.
It's so good.
But again, like if you're a Montreal fan, like it's rough. But I mean, considering the fact that the team again got to the Cup Finals, kind of crashed back down to earth, but the team kind of seems to be embracing the mentality that it's time to rebuild. Like, again, sometimes teams can go to the Cup Finals and not win it, and then not admit to themselves that they need to be rebuilding for 6-7 years.
Yeah,
and that's not always fun. So
I don't know who you're talking about, but we'll move on. It doesn't ring a bell, but mystery unsolved on this very program. The Detroit Red Wings, Jeff. Moving on up maybe a little bit. It wasn't that long ago that this was a roster and a situation that I think we looked around the league. Terrible GM situation. Really wouldn't commit to a long-term rebuild. It's where the Red Wings, and you see this in sports, where like certain franchises and their history kind of blinds them to rebuilds and painful rebuilds. And then there's for instance, Bryan. I didn't want to say the Dallas Cowboys, but there are teams, big teams and big logos. Like the Red Wings logo is just iconic, and they're an iconic franchise. So I think it's just a little bit harder when teams like them and the Blackhawks and a few others accepting that they need to do a full-on teardown.